you could let me know in the comments, because here's my personal canon of my favorite books that I've ever read or that mean something to me. There's a lot of books that I've read that are up there, like The Hunger Games, Parable of the Sower, Kindred, Battle Royale, Grisha Trilogy, Six of Crows. Those feel like those are a given. These are my favorites. So first up is The Enchanted Wood by Enid Blyton. I know Enid Blyton is a racist. I know she's xenophobic. Well, she used to be xenophobic because she's dead now. And people have criticized her books, all of them being children's books. They've criticized them for being too simplistic, but it was like, bitch, it's also the 1930s, girl. How sophisticated the books for kids was supposed to be back then, girl. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But this was the first book that I ever read that didn't have much pictures in it. And it felt like the first book that was more like a grown-up, more adult, more like aged-up book than just picture books. It was this fantastical story of these kids going into this wood near to the house that they just moved into and finding magical creatures and finding a magical tree. They would go up to the top of the tree and they would end up in these different lands. I loved that about this story, and to this day it's still one of my favorite stories. I had to rebuy this book because I think the one that I had when I was younger, somebody threw it away, and I had to buy this version because this was the version that I had. And also, this is the version where they didn't change the names of the kids and they didn't change certain things like the corporal punishment. I don't want it to be censored. I just want it to be the original. Granted, problematic now, but I wanted to read it in its original with the original names and everything. And I prefer this cover. Any other cover version of this, I don't like them. I think they're ugly. This is the first one on my personal canon because of where it lands chronologically in my life. Next up is The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah. This is a bona fide classic for me personally. I know it is for a lot of other people. As a matter of fact, I think I actually started reading this at my cousin's house because she had it. She was in college and she was reading this and I was like, what is this about? Let me read it. Let me see what, and I was in it. I loved this book, and when I finally got to own it, somebody gifted this to me for Christmas, which is funny. They gifted it to me at church along with a book on Christian miracles or something like that. I don't even know what a Christian miracles book is. I still have my copy of what she gifted me because I read this book all the way through. I loved every minute of it. It was all the drama. I was a winter stan when I read it. That was my girl. Boots down. I live for winter. I read it a few years ago, probably for the second time, or was it the third time? And I was just like, winter is a dummy. Winter is dummy down. Oh my gosh, she was so silly. This is truly a cautionary tale for, I would say, a lot of girls, but just a lot of people, that you can't be living life like the way Miss Winter is here, because Miss Thing, she was doing too. She was just all over the place doing whatever, doing all kind of silly stuff. She was getting in herself in good situations and fucking the situation up because she just like, bitch, I want to have my own money. I want to do this. I want to be with this nigga. I was like, girl, relax. And that's why Winter ended up where she ended up. I read the follow-up to this book, Life After Death, and I actually want to rewrite Life After Death, or at least I want to do my own interpretation of Life After Death and leave the entire hell arc out of the entire story and just go with the whole reality show. I wish we had seen Winter's reality show with the other ex-convicts, because that would have been so much more interesting. It would have gave me more Mob Wives. That's not the point of this video. I think this book is an American classic. If this is not already officially a part of the canon of American literature, up there with The Great Gatsby, Ernest Hemingway, J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye, The Outsiders, and To Kill a Mockingbird. It's up there with all those other American books in the American canon. It is one of my favorites. I actually should do a reread of it. I actually started putting Post-its and little markers and stuff in there of my thoughts into this book. I need to actually read the other books in the series, like the Midnight Trilogy and the one on her sister Portia Santiago. And I think there's another book, a third winter book called Life After Love, which is supposed to be a rom-com. And I'm just like, what do you mean? We went from cautionary tale to cautionary tale in hell to rom-com? Okay, Sister Souljah, It's your world, girl. Next up is Chances by Jackie Collins. This was the first book where I realized that I love full, long books. I love epic, generational stories that span years. This is such an epic, generational, dramatic, it's almost like a soap opera. I loved every minute of this story. The version of this book that I read, it had a diamond necklace on it, and it was like a mass market paperback, thick like this, and I ate all of this up. It's so good. I actually want to get a new copy of this, but in an 8x5 dimension, because I prefer those paperback types because it's just bigger. The font isn't so small. It's just a better fit for me. Next up is Thugs and the Women Who Love Them by Wahida Clark. I love Wahida Clark's books. Although, granted, I've only read Thugs and the Women Who Love Them, and I've read Every Thug Needs a Lady. Those are the only two I've read. This is soapy. This was soap opera. This was perfect. It was everything. It was fast paced. Ooh, she sucked me right on in. I have the rest of the series, and I need to reread this and go through the rest of the series and see where it goes. I remember when I read this when I was younger, I was hooked. I was like, ooh, Wahida Clark was my favorite. She honestly is still my favorite, one of my favorite authors. I definitely need to do a reread of the Thug series and complete the entire series and see where all the characters go and where all the drama goes, because baby, juicy. This is definitely a part of my personal canon of my favorite books. Next up is B-Boy Blues by James Earl Hardy. Bonafide, what, baby, she is a part of my personal canon for life, baby. She's still problematic for me. She's still my problematic fave. She got her parts, she got her pieces, but baby, I love it. I live for her. I may not feel the same way I used to feel about Raheem, but baby, I still loved it. I still love the story. And the time that I read this again and I tabbed it up with all these tabs and all these post-its, it showed how this story had so many more layers. It is a love story. It is a romance between Mitchell and Attorney Varney. Mitchell and Attorney Varney. Actually, this could technically be, what's his name? What's the gay son on Beauty and Black? I'm really trying to remember his name right now. What is his name? It's Roy and Charles. So it's Attorney Varney and Charles. But no, this is Mitchell and Raheem. Attorney Varney could jump on these bones, honey. You could jump on me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's not the point right now. No, because seriously. What is his name again? I'm about to say Terrell Hawkins, but it's not Terrell Hawkins. It's Terrell something. It's not Terrell Davis either. Either way, that's not the point. This book is so layered. It is a romance, but it also talks about being black and gay, at least black and gay in the 90s, and just being a black man and being a black man in America. It tackles so many different issues and so many different topics, and to the point that it does get problematic at points where there are offhanded comments about fat people, there are offhanded comments about trans women, and drag queens. It's a little problematic here and there, but for the most part, it's still a really great story. Dare I say, this needs to be a part also of the American canon of literature. It is a part of that. It is up there with The Coldest Winter Ever, with Catcher in the Rye, The Great Gatsby, and The Outsiders. Is Lord of the Flies one of them too? That's the thing about even the classics. The classics probably have problematic aspects to them and problematic parts that people are like, it's problematic now, but it's the reality, and sometimes storytellers got to tell the reality of characters. That's who they are. B-Boy Blues is definitely a major part of my literary canon. Next up is Chulito by Charles Rice Gonzalez. Chulito is about a 16-year-old who is coming of age in New York City and coming to terms with his sexuality in his very hyper masculine Latino Bronx community, falling in love with his best friend from childhood. First time I read it was really good, but the second time I read it, I realized how cinematic this book is. It feels like a movie. So many of the scenes feel like a movie. It kind of bridged that gap between street lit with literary literature, just the two combined. So it is definitely a part of my personal literary canon. Next up is Gossip Girl by Cecily von Ziegaser. I walked into Borders because I wanted to read something different, more like a high school perspective at the time, and I saw Gossip Girl. They were talking high school, but it was rich and glitzy and fab, and I was just like, okay, let's read this. And crazy enough, I think I was 2 or 3 books into Gossip Girl. Around that time, they were starting to shoot Gossip Girl, and I was working near where they were shooting Gossip Girl, somebody came up to me and they were like, you know they're shooting Gossip Girl right over there, right? And I was just like, what? Bitch, I'm right on time. I was really hooked on Gossip Girl, the book. I was deeply into it. I love how the story's told. There's the little intersperse of Gossip Girl giving people, you know, all of the juicy bloggy stuff reminiscent of early 2000s blogging, like that Perez Hilton style of vlogging and stuff like that, but it's private high school focused. But within the story itself, I love the moments where you would see side characters gossiping about the main characters. And I think that was something that the actual show never really fully leaned into. I think maybe it had a few moments where there were characters that were gossiping about Blair and Serena and Nate and Chuck. Although Chuck in the show is a bigger character than he is in this book. He is a part of the book, but he's more supporting character. The gossiping parts were funny to me because you learn about the characters and what's going on with them straight from them. And then you would hear other people gossiping about them. And it was so funny, the lies and the rumors that they were spreading. It was just like, girl, that's not the truth though. But it's so funny the kind of truth that y'all are coming up with, the rumors that y'all are coming up with. It was funny for me. It was drama for me. I actually need to do a reread of the entire series. And I actually need to watch the entire series because I bought it on DVD because I really love Gossip Girl that much. So Gossip Girl is a part of my personal literary canon, even if it's young adults, trashy teen drama stuff. I remember one time I went on MySpace. Yes, MySpace. And I was in one of the forums for Gossip Girl, and this girl was talking about, oh my gosh, Gossip Girl is so dirty. They're drinking and doing drugs. And I was just like, girl, what? I read this and I was like, girl, I've read harsher than that. Maybe y'all are a little too, I don't want to say y'all a little too sheltered, but it feels like y'all a little too sheltered. And I guess Euphoria changed the game because the girls do more than drinking and drugs, girl, nowadays. Next up is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. I love this book. I tabbed this book up so much, and this was the first time I read it. I tabbed it up. I actually need to do a reread of it. It is such a good book. So wonderful, so beautiful. I resonated so much with George M. Johnson because their life felt so much still similar to my life. It wasn't exactly the same one-to-one, but so much of George's experiences were like my experiences growing up. Being a black, effeminate gay boy, it resonated so much. It imparted so much wisdom and so much affirmation for queer kids coming up. This is a great resource for young adults to tap into to understand themselves, especially if you have like a parent who does not understand what it means to be queer or to be gay, LGBTQ, or anything. This is somewhere where you can understand and know that you're not alone, but also get imparted some wisdom on how to navigate the world as an LGBTQ person within the community and outside of the community. Because that's something that sometimes your parents, that non-LGBTQ people they don't understand, they can't get, and they don't have the knowledge and wisdom to impart to keep you safe. Especially if they already feel ways about the LGBTQ people, they already feel ways about queer people, they're not going to impart the best advice to you that's going to help you navigate the world and stay safe. This is definitely a part of my personal literary canon. It connected and resonated with me so much. And I'm so grateful to George M. Johnson for writing this and sharing their story. Next up is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. I love Akwaeke Emezi. I've only read two Akwaeke Emezi books, Freshwater and Pet. I need to do a reread of Freshwater because Freshwater, I feel like it went over my head. It was good, but it went over my head because I didn't completely understand everything that was going on. Although Pet is pretty much a book that reads like, it's for middle schoolers. I loved it. I don't care. I don't know. It was a book that when I read it, I needed to read something that was light in the manner of me being able to read it, but it's also something that deals with some like deep, heavy topics. I feel like as a book, it's like a transition from middle school age books to young adult books. The world really captivated me because just like how the world on the cover just seems so clean and organized is how in the book it read to me. But below that things are not as perfect as they seem. I'm actually going to read every Akweke Emezi book and try and read it in chronological order. So I'll definitely do a reread of this. I started reading the follow-up to this, or at least the prequel to this, Bitter. I didn't finish it, so I need to go back and restart Bitter and finish it. I will do that in my Akweke Emezi binge. I'm basically going to binge all the Akweke Emezi novels. Like Pet by Akweke Emezi is definitely a part of my personal literary canon of my favorite books. Next up is one of my favorites, Blood Like Magic by LaSalle Sambry. Baby, I love this book. I love it because it's so many layers to this. It tapped into so many layers for me. It's a futuristic science fiction world, but there's also magic. It's fantastical. It's fantasy. It's a family drama. It felt a little family soapy, family drama, family soap opera-esque. I loved that about it. LaSalle Sambry, she is of Trinidadian heritage. So I resonated with that so much because she tapped into so much Trinidadian culture in the story. She was talking about red mango. She talked about kumar. I feel like she talked about palau and ruti. And I was just like, baby, I love the world. And I'm big on world building. The world building in this was fantastic. I love a soapy story, so there was soap opera drama going on in the story. It was perfect. It was perfect. I love this story. I love the follow-up. I feel like there could be a third book in this world, in this story, with Nova and her family. Because baby, this was good. Like LaSalle, I hope she's working on the third book. Shout out to LaSalle, girl. I love this book. This is definitely a massive part of my personal literary canon. I need to do a reread of this so bad. It deserves my attention. It deserves to be read again. I love Blood Like Magic, and I believe it's supposed to be adapted. But from the way I'm hearing things, they be playing games with black authors' novels. When they're trying to adapt them, they'll buy up the rights and then not do anything with them for years and then drop it. Baby, HBO needs to pick this up and adapt this. Somebody somebody with some prestige money needs to adapt this because it needs the money for the sci-fi, the technology, the everything. Next up is The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Huang. I love this book down. Boots. Baby. Love it down loads. I felt like it was written for me because it tapped into so many layers of things that I like. I love the way the story was told. It was these different POVs. It was told through time, different time periods. It was gay. It was fantasy. It was sexy. There were moments of drama. It wasn't really made for me. It was made for Asian men, but it resonated with me so strongly. I love this book, and I believe so strongly in Justinian Huang. I believe it's Huang is how you pronounce it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the romance of it. I enjoyed the suspense, the fantasy, the fantasticalness of it. I enjoyed the moment on the desk in the Emperor's, what is it? Is it the Emperor's office? I enjoyed that moment a lot. I felt that. I felt it. I think I was in it. Like, baby, I was in it. I almost vividly can remember. I was right there. I was there next to the chest hair. Everything. I was in it. I love The Emperor and the Endless Palace. I actually need to do a reread. It is definitely a part of my personal literary canon of my favorite novels, of my favorite books. Next up is Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. I heard a lot of people kind of like telling me, oh, after I read Parable of the Sword, you should read Sky Full of Elephants. You should read Sky Full of Elephants. I read the synopsis and I was like, okay, I need to get this. I read a synopsis once, maybe twice, and I usually forget it. But I remembered the synopsis. I went into this book asking questions like, what happened to the white people if they all disappeared? And what does the world look like now that white people aren't there anymore? What is that going to be like? And baby, I feel like a lot of my questions were answered. And I love the answers to those questions. I do think there are more questions that I have. I need answered with a second book. I want to see what happens after the ending of this book. I need to know. I honestly feel like every black person needs to read this. But the thing is, as much as I want every black person to read this, I also feel like there are parts of this book that that as black people, they're not going to like. There are going to be black people who don't like that it does highlight African spirituality. They will not like that there are queer characters or that there are LGBTQ characters in the story. And I feel like there would even be black people who will not like the fact that there are no white people in the story. Why are the white people not there? Why did they have to not exist in the story anymore? But I also feel like it's a story that black people need to get the deeper message of us as black people focusing on us building with each other and building community with each other. A lot of the focus should be really building within black community, and I feel like that is the deeper theme and the deeper message of this book as far as I'm concerned. Other people might not connect with it that way. Baby, that's how I saw it. But I think also because I was not paying attention to Sydney as a character, and I feel like a lot of people that didn't like this book that are black also did not like Sydney as a character, so that threw them off of the book. I didn't give a damn about Sydney. I've dealt with enough people that are of black ancestry, black descent, African descent, who are a lot more white aligned. They not thinking straight. They not thinking clear. They're thinking a little too clear. I'm not even thinking about them. I'm just thinking about a better world for black people, and that's what I was seeing in this book. I didn't give a damn about what Sydney was doing. I was hoping she would come back around. I only cared about the world and seeing a better world for black people and black people coming together to build a better world for ourselves. So that's what I loved about this book. I actually really need to reread this. It felt so uplifting. It felt so empowering. It made me so happy to read this book. Sky Full of Elephants is definitely a massive part of my personal literary canon of my favorite books. Next up, The New World by Alice Cott and Trad Moore. I love this graphic novel. I don't think there was any other issues beyond this novel. I think this was self-contained as 1 to 5 issues collected in this one volume. I loved this novel. I loved how colorful it was. I love how futuristic it was. I enjoyed the artwork. The artwork was kind of weird for me because I usually like my artwork to be a little bit more like Gem, the cartoon. And when I say Gem, the cartoon, I'm talking about 80s Gem, the cartoon. I don't know if there's any other versions of Gem besides that live action movie. But Gem, the cartoon from the 80s and the 90s, I like that kind of art style a lot. Or like Jem Bartel. I love Jem Bartel art style. So this one was kind of a little weird for me, but I loved the art style here. I loved the story. I ain't gonna lie, I forgot what the story's about. This black woman who finds a man, an Asian man that just loves her. He's just enamored with her. And he's all weird and quirky and artsy, but he's also really strong and skilled with mechanics and shit. And she's like super soldier type. I really should do a reread of this. The New World by Alice Cott and Trad Moore is definitely a part of my personal literary canon of my favorite books. What have you been reading? This is my personal canon. This is my personal literary canon of my favorite books of all time. Or at least at the moment. I'm sure there are going to be more books that I'm going to add to this list. There's 12 books so far. My all-time favorites that just impact me, that matter to me, that tap into parts of who I am, my likes and my interests and my personality. I love these books and I appreciate them. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I am out this bitch like Fleek. Shout out to Peaches. Thank you, girl.